I like to buy inexpensive gear and see if miracles are possible. This is the Viltrox R56mm f1.7 for my Sony A6700. Here we have the same for my Nikon Z50 Mark II, and it's also available for Fujifilm X mount. I bought them in the Philippines for around $130 and you will find them for under $200 if you are not in Asia. We will see many photos and many tests that I made during my last 2 weeks here in Switzerland. At 130 bucks, this lens is not perfect, and we will start with the biggest problem. So if it's a deal breaker for you, you can just stop watching. This lens, like many other cheaper lenses, is not very resistant to flaring, so it could impact the quality of your photos. But in this case, especially for macro photography with a flash, and we will see that right now. Here, for example, we have a spider in the web, and just behind there is a wall in metal. For the test, I shoot with the Viltrox mounted on a few extension tubes, so we are at around 1:1 ratio of magnification, and we will compare it with two real macro lenses, the Laowa 65mm f2.8 macro and the Sony FE 90mm f2.8 macro. That's what we get with the Viltrox 56mm. The metallic wall reflects the light back at the lens and we lose a lot of contrast. Now, that's what you get with the Laowa. And that is the result with the Sony FE 90mm macro. The two more expensive real macro lenses do a better job, as you can see. The simple fix to our problem is to make sure that there is no reflecting colors just behind the subject, as you can see here with the Viltrox again, but this time from the side. It's fine, and in fact I did a lot of macro photography with the Viltrox. But first let's have a look at the lens. Not much to say, I did a review of the Viltrox R25mm f1.7, link below, and this one is very similar in plastic, with a smooth focus ring, only 170 grams, which I like a lot, and small enough. We have no weather sealing, but a metallic mount with a USB-C port for firmware update. And I must say that you should have all your firmware up to date with those Viltrox to make sure that the autofocus is working well. The filter thread is 52mm. Inside there is a STM motor, 11 elements in 9 group and 9 aperture blades. The aperture goes from f1.7 to f16. A lovely little lens. Here it is on my Sony A6700 and here on my Nikon Z50 Mark II with the hood. The autofocus is on the slower side, but in real life it was perfectly fine tracking planes and cats, for example. Now it's not related, but I can tell you that the Sony overall did a better job focusing. The Nikon hesitates sometimes and focus hunt again. And sometimes, but rarely, it will give me that kind of photo with animal eye tracking. I don't have any similar photos with the Sony. Let's continue with macro. If you add between 40 and 50mm of extension tubes, you will have a near 1:1 ratio of magnification. I added the Godox Flash V480C and my homemade flash diffuser, link below if you want to know how I made it. And I went in a small forest to try that setup. I found a few cool animals like this huge black-headed cardinal beetle. This is like 2 cm long. They like shade, forest, flowers and smaller insects. It was moving a lot, but I can share a few photos that are not too bad. And by the way, all the macro that you see has been processed through Topaz denoise. I think it improves greatly the image for macro photography. And there is no crop, so you have a better idea of the size and what's possible. Here I found even bigger, a Necrophorus vespillo. Those can be 2.5 cm long. They like dead bodies, and they like to bury anything dead, like mice and small birds, for example. They clean the forest, in fact. Again, that's the best I could do. It never stopped running. But the coolest subject of the day landed near me while I was photographing these yellow baby spiders. This is a scorpion fly. Unfortunately, this is probably a female, so it doesn't have a scorpion-like tail appendage. But still, she's weird. Something cool is that your camera can do focus bracketing since it is an autofocus lens, but if your extension tubes have the connectors, of course. So I try with a strange plant in the garden of my mom. Then I found a bee a little bit frozen by the sudden drop of temperature. She was still moving his head a lot, so I fixed it grossly in Helicon focus. This one was handheld. I went to a small airport near me, a place where small planes are landing on the grass. The aerodrome of Bay, a small village in the canton de Vaud. And no, this is not a plane taking off, it's a bird's nest. I used that plane to make a stability test and see what we can get. This is recorded with the Viltrox and the Nikon Z50 Mark II, so there is no stabilization at all. Here I turned the electronic VR on, and it's a bit disappointing. And now a footage with the Viltrox 56mm and the Sony Steady Shot turned on. A lot better. Still at the airport, I used that sign to simulate some portrait photography and see what bokeh we get at f16, f13, f10, f8, f6.3, f5, f4, f3.2, f2.8, f2 and f1.7. Now at Dandelion from very close at f16, f13, f10, f8, f6.3, f5, f4, f2.8, f2.2 and f1.7. Then I set up both cameras to plane tracking, and this is the full session with the sun in front of us. No editing, just the standard Luminar Neo profile, no crop. Now a few planes but lit by the sun, so we get nice colors. I wanted to show you how close they are from the road when they land, probably 15 to 20 meters. That's my mom over there. Sunstar at f11. Sunstar at f16. This is Largo backlit at f5.6. Amazing sharpness, no color problem in the hair, and we are at a football game here. You can guess the football cages behind the dog. Largo again at f1.7. So only the eyes are in focus this time. You can see on the grass that line of focus is very small. Again, no chromatic aberration. This here is something blue behind the dog. Puppet at f4.5 side lit. Crazy good bokeh, super sharp. No problem that could bother me here. This is really where the lens is shining, I think. Very good for pet portrait and portrait in general, with an effective focal length of 84mm. This one is cropped. This is Marley at f2.2. Side lit at f2.8. And here backlit at f4.5. 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 。 . 。 . . 。 。 . . 。 . . 。 . . 。 . . 。 . . 。 . . 。 . . . 。 . . . huge crop, still backlit here. Lhasa at f2.8, super sharp. And again Puppet at f2.8. Back to the field of Switzerland for a bit of landscape. I thought it would be a good idea to compare different focal length with the Viltrox 56mm. This is what I got with the Sony 11mm f1.8 and the Sony A6700. This is probably my favorite with the Viltrox 25mm f1.7 still on the Sony. And this is the field of view with the Viltrox 56mm f1.7. I chose two compositions here, and I prefer the one with the two trees. Finally, I went to the Château de Chillon, a famous castle between Montreux and Villeneuve at the Léman Lake. I had to walk way back on that lovely pathway to frame the entire castle. So yes, this budget lens can deliver. It has a bit of vignette, it's not flaring resistant, probably not really weather resistant and not stabilized. But it's very cheap, comes with a cute hood, it's very sharp, lightweight, compact, relatively silent, and the overall image quality is good. The bokeh is great, and there is not much color fringing. Little follow-up for a few of you, maybe you remember that the Viltrox 56mm for Sony stopped working during a video I made 2 months ago. So I simply texted the seller on my online shop application named Lazada. I talked to a robot for 5 minutes, then the next day a real human texted me and asked me a few questions. Then I had to upload a little video showing that the lens was not working, the camera would not even turn off. He said, okay, here is the address in China, we will fix it for free, but you have to pay the return. I chose a fast and safe shipping that costed around $35 US, and after 3 weeks the lens came back. It worked for the 2 weeks doing this video, and it still works well today. And that's it. Bye.